Welcome to Let's Talk Miracles with your host, Mary Beth Stevenson. Mary Beth says she's absolutely thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. This show is all about embracing the boundless potential within ourselves to create the reality of our dreams. Having lived her entire life guided by the principles of positive thinking and the wisdom of universal laws, Mary Beth is passionate about sharing the keys to unlocking your own limitless potential. So please welcome the host of Let's Talk Miracles, Mary Beth Stevenson.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. First, let me start with Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Even if your moms have furry pets, that's okay. Happy Mother's Day. And to my mom who's in Pennsylvania, happy Mother's Day, Mom. Okay, so I'm going to get right started in this because I am really inspired today to do this. So it's an hour show. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what am I going to say for an hour? But honestly, I never get in all that I'm saying between the website flying up with questions. It's just never enough time. I'm going to bring Dr. Kieran, who works with the original body blueprint. It's called Geotram. Amazing. Also, she has many things that she does and the work that she does with people. So for a moment, grab a pen and paper, because a lot of times when I say something, it's channeled. So it's the better me saying it, my higher self. So I don't really remember, but it can be impactful, and there's many golden nuggets in there for you. So I want to get started right away. First, I want to touch base on really fast who we are. We are not here by mistake. We are not here by coincidence. We are here as beautiful, beautiful light beings. I don't know why some people are inflicted with different diseases and ailments, but I do know that was worked out before they came here. And for those out there with mental health or depression, those type of ailments, depending on where you're at with it, this work that we do helps. It can make a difference in your life. The Joe Dispenzas, the Bruce Liptons of the world, the biology of belief, epigenetics. This is no joke, guys. This is your soul banging on your door to say, wake up, it's your time. Wake up and buckle up. Because for those of you who are out there and your soul is knocking out, because by the way, inevitably on this planet, your soul's going to knock, because that's what you're here to do. You're here to get to know who you really are and find out the power of you, which is the power of what I call God, or my mighty I am presence. If you're not comfortable with that because you've had some negative things that happen and you blame God, that's on you. Whatever you think gives you breath, whatever power you think allows you to breathe and move, say thank you. Give gratitude. And when you learn that it's all God, it's all the universe, it's all, whomever you choose to call that, you'll realize that power in you is the same as that beautiful, beautiful power that gives you breath. And I know I've said my story. I've been on both ends of the spectrum. Do I know about this? Absolutely. I know what this work does. I know it. And when I say this work, it could be just many clients. It's just talk, but it's when you find someone who carries a frequency of a vibration, and that's me, my vibration, I can walk into a room, and many others, by the way, we can all get there. When you walk into a room, the vibration in of itself lifts that room up. So that's where we want to get to. We want to get to where, so basically that what I pull in to my experiences are of a good vibration, because I don't allow or oscillate in the negative. Does life happen to me? Absolutely. I couldn't do the show last weekend because life happened. Life happened to me and I had to deal with other stuff. It doesn't mean that you walk around in la la land. It doesn't mean that. But in a way, it does, because as life happens to you and you're dealing with the different aspects of what's heavy and negative and hurts and is sad, when you find and tap into this part of you, some way, somehow, it lifts you up to the point where you're above the water. And we need to get you above the water. Once you're above the water, to stay above the water is the most important thing. So you saturate yourself in that water with people and places that are speaking of just good. I'm not saying that denying the bad at all, but what you'll learn is you have enough of the negative in your everyday life that gives you a tension rod to know when something negative happens, there's something positive. There's always that tension, and that's when you know you need to go closer to the positive. So meaning, saturate yourself with people saying that gives you a good feeling, because every day that should be your goal, to just feel good every day. How do you get there? It's starting here. It's starting right here by having people that can inspire you, to have people that know and can see clearly that, I understand this happened. Let's get you past it. Everybody, listen to me. You are somebody without the addiction. You are somebody without the mental health. We all are these amazing beings. This lifetime where consciousness is, it's here to knock. It's always going to knock. And until you answer that door and start to allow yourself to become a part of the vibration where you're grabbing that golden ring all the time, the higher you fly on that golden ring, Abraham calls it a disc. Grab the high flying disc. Grab it. What does that mean? That means when you're feeling yourself going into a mode of where the loop starts happening again, because you're telling yourself the same story every day, stop, tell it, shut up, not today or not for this minute, and grab a high flying disc. For my clients, it might be a phone call with me. It might be I do energy work for them and they're open to receiving it. For Dr. Kier, she does geotram. I do Psych K. There's many different emotional traumas that can be pulled out and reprogrammed. And I am just here to tell you, if you've lost hope or if you think I'm too far gone, it can't be helped, you're wrong. You're wrong. And what I mean by you're wrong is, it doesn't necessarily mean that the pimple on your leg, I'm gonna downsize this to a pimple on your leg. That pimple might still be there, but honestly, when you start to get your thoughts in harmony with your feelings and you're pulling on your I am presence, on that energy that's created you, you don't care about that pimple anymore. You don't notice that pimple anymore. It means nothing to you. I call it I don't anything stage. I don't anything them. I nothing that. I nothing that anymore. And when you get to that point, and in the beginning you think that it's like almost negative, like my sister, when I first was experiencing all this, because I remember I was raised with this. My sister was older, not so much. My mom wasn't on that journey then. So she looked at me as if I was some guru or this amazing being, just because of the way I live my life. And she would say, okay, I don't anything them. And I'm like, well, it's not quite said like that. It honestly gets to the point in your heart and soul really quick. You could have somebody in abuse. Okay. You're in an abusive relationship. They're screaming and screaming and screaming and taking out their tantrums and anger and this. Okay. So then maybe you become a part of that. Okay. Maybe you become a part of that anger and screaming and tantrums and this, and you're seeing a part of you that you never even knew existed, but you're right there with them at times. Then what happens when you start to come into balance, what happens is you don't anything that behavior anymore. They can be standing this close to your face, screaming to the point where they're spitting at you. And they don't bring up anger anymore. They don't bring up fear. It's almost like I've been there, and I used to like do as a joke. I'd be like, okay, I'm backing up now, you know. But what that did for him, it blew his mind, because even though at first he's like, you know, he wanted to scream in anger our way out of it, but there was no anger left in me. It just wasn't there anymore. And basically, if we decide to part, it'll be in love and it'll be in harmony. I'm not going to do what everybody else does and tell you how wrong you are and how bad you are and how crazy you are and how dysfunctional you are, or you're an addict and all the. It's not like that. It's about, I don't want to be a part of not feeling good every day anymore. So no matter who you think you're doing it for, you must know this is a personal journey. This is something that you have to decide for you. And I just can say, the more energy and attention you give it, the more you become that who you are. And guys, you'll know things that you think this is all new information sometimes. But then what happens is, as you're learning it and as you're releasing that anger and that trauma and that stress, because you have to release it to get past it. Like Dr. Keir says, well, I'll let her tell you what she says when she comes on. But the point is, it transmutes into what I like to call the better you. It's you've always been in there. You've always been in there. Unfortunately, we've been raised with people that maybe didn't know as well as they thought they knew, and their lack of understanding of who they are and what we're here to do. Because remember, consciousness has expanded. So we're getting more and more and more information, which is the kids, my grandchildren are born with a very different DNA. I know it from my kids, let alone me. They're brighter, they're sharper. They feel this knowing is a knowing. So when you hear or you read something that makes you feel good and hopeful, and there's no harm to anyone in it, and they're not trying to sell you land in a swampland in Arizona, then you're in the right spot. Then you're in the right spot. If it makes you feel good, and they're asking nothing of you. You know, you might have to pay for their services, but that's life. That's what we're here to do. Yes, I am an expert in what I do. Dr. Keir, she's an expert, and so are many of the people that do it. But if you guys knew the what we have done financially to become this, because even though you may know it, you have to become certified in it to do it. So anyway, enough about that. So when we're here to know, when you find out the being that you're here to be, and I do shows about that, the amazing beings that we are, man, you don't walk in a room with your head down anymore. You don't argue with people that say, no, you're wrong, because that's what they want you to do. You lose hatred, because you have a knowing that in a way you feel sad for them, that they're not there. And I'm saying this to all those who are out there with mental health and depression. Look, I know it's not as easy as one thing from Mary Beth or Dr. Keir or all these other things, but it is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. The only thing that makes it not easy is that you have to do it every day. But again, you're doing it anyway. You're just doing it in a way that's causing more heartache, more depression, more mental health issues, more abuse. You're just doing it in a way that you're making the outcome different. You have the power to change the outcome. You have that power, and all it is you. There's no great angel that comes down and taps you on the wand, although I do have a magic wand, and so does Dr. Keir, for the lighter notes of things. But the point is, because you're looking out there when it's in you. That's why when you find someone that inspires you or rings true to you, don't let go of your golden ring. I'm not saying you have to continue on one path. I'm saying let the journey happen. It's amazing. So you have to take control. yet surrender it at the same time to a power that's bigger than you. And when I say surrender it, and then I'm going to bring Dr. Kieran, when I say surrender it, I don't mean you have to, oh, here you go, take this. Well, it is that way. It is that simple. What I mean is you have to stop worrying about it. You have to stop worrying about the outcome of those people. You need to worry about you, and you will find out you don't need to worry about anything that hasn't happened yet, and anything that happened to you 1 minute ago, you don't have to worry about that either, because you can't change the past and you're not in the future. What you need to pay attention to is the now, the very right now. Feel good in the now. Get your head out of the oh, I'm never going to get better. This is it. I tried this before. Stop. You don't have to try anymore. Consciousness has grown. You can do it now. You can do it. And until you do it, you're always going to have those issues, because that is what you've chosen to keep you from it, because that is what you were programmed with from mother, father, preacher, teacher. But you will believe in you, get to a point where you stop giving your energy and attention to things that you do not want any longer. You give your energy and your attention to things that you do want, because whatever you're giving your energy and attention to is growing. On that note, I'm going to bring in Dr. Kier. Dr. Kier, welcome.
But I'm here. Can we have the shared screen? There we go.
Hi, Dr. Kier.
That was fabulous. That was just perfect. That was so spot on. And I even took a couple of notes.
Cool. Well, Dr. Kier is the most, well, I'm not even going to get into that. I said the most organized, well-trained mind I have seen. And I've been in the company of extremely, extremely successful multi-millionaire people. That was my life for 25 years. Yet she stands out. If I had to go to the front lines, she'd be somebody I'd take with me. That's for sure. Absolutely. And I think what you say helps people so much. I wanted to just come on today with you and chat from one being who's on this path to another, basically. And I wanted to talk, and again, I didn't even know I was going to go here, but I need to go here because of frequency and energy. And what I would like is if you would share your version of the human body and what it's really here to do, but take it a little further and get into what happens when you're listening to your own body and mind. What happens when you hit that harmony?
Well, that is actually something that's really key for people to understand, because it's all about frequency and alignment. Yeah, and these, in a sense, well, I was going to say, in a sense, these are actually the same things. Now, frequency is what are you vibrating at? You know that every color, for instance, has a specific vibration. Yeah, we know that every thought, every feeling, every belief has a certain vibration or frequency. Yes, and whatever you're vibrating at, that is exactly what you just said. You're getting more of that. Yeah, because that's what you're focused on. That's what you're in alignment with. So an analogy that I find helpful for myself as well as everybody else is think about that you are a radio transmitter and receiver at the same time. So there are because of whatever experiences you've had as a child or the people around you have had, there are going to be presets. You know how your car tends to have presets for the radio? Yeah.
Yes.
And those are like your default settings. So my friend, who I love dearly and I've known for 49 years, who is a theoretical physicist, you want to talk about somebody who's in his head all the time. His preset is to see the worst in any situation. And I sort of joke with him. I said, if I were to win a Maserati, like in a contest, or somebody would give me a Maserati, I know the first thing you'd say is, "Oh man, the insurance is going to kill you."
Right.
Whereas I'm on the radio wavelength most of the time. Cool,
Yeah.
Maserati, all right. It's like, of course the universe is going to give me all these goodies because that's what I'm focused on. That's what I'm aligned with. Now, we live in a physical world, and so we tend to think of it in terms of our physical or sensory impression all the time, right? However, I want you to picture a pyramid, right? And this
Okay.
pyramid has 3 layers. Well, it's actually got 5 layers, but 3 will, for the purposes of simplicity, we're going to say 3 layers. All right. So the bottom layer is the physical. That's the slowest and lowest, right? And I'm not saying low in a superior or inferior way. I'm just saying
Correct.
slower vibration. Yeah, that's what
Density.
yes. So whatever's going on in the energy fields, it slows down enough to present itself in the physical realm. And above that is the soul or psyche, which is what you think, feel, believe, and desire. And above that, in the pointy bit, is your spirit. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with your spirit. Your spirit is doing just fine. Nothing has to be fixed in your spirit. The issue is for most people, including little old me,
Everybody.
is that soul level, because of the density of the energies on this planet. Yeah.
Correct.
And this is part of our experience here, and this is why we're here.
Yes.
Is that soul level is very choked up. And I find with the people I work with, at least, about 80% of those assimilation, contamination, possession, whatever word you want to use for what's going on in the soul level, actually is coming from somebody else, right? So if you think about the times, I'm sorry, say again.
Mother, father, preacher, teacher, what they were
exactly
raised with.
Exactly what Mary Beth said.
Okay.
So I mean, if you
I just want to clarify for people.
Absolutely. So I mean, but it could also be your best friend when you were in primary school. It could also be the lady who babysitted you when you were 3. It's whatever you were exposed to, and maybe at an unconscious moment. And remember, 90% of what's going on is going on in the unconscious or the subconscious. It's like maybe you're overhearing your parents having an argument in the next room, and it's not about you, but all kids think that it is about that. Yeah. So that's sort of put in some presets into your radio set, and it's created files in your hard drive, because all of those sensory impressions are recorded somewhere in your inner biocomputers. And then those files like to run themselves again. And they're not necessarily going to have the exact result that when you were 3. I mean, one would hope not, but it will bring up the signature. So, example from my own life. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old, and it took me 50 years and some pointed observations from my teacher. She said, you know what, I think, and she wasn't saying this in a blame way, I think you're still processing both sides of your parents' divorce. Now, I was 3 years old. This is not a mental thing.
Right.
This is an energy thing. So my father's narcissistic whatnots and my mother's disdain for men because of the way she'd been treated. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But boy, as soon as she pointed that out, could I see that in other, in my relationships in the ensuing 50 years? Yeah. Because that's what in my energy system had become familiar.
Yes.
But it did not actually stem from things that I personally was thinking or feeling or believing or desiring, but from the people around me. And as you were saying, it could be your parents, could be a genetic line contamination, could be a religion that you grew up in. That's very powerful in terms of its programming impact. So what you and I do, each in our different ways, now I use the computer analogy a lot because I grew up in a family of computer programmers. I mean, it makes sense to me. Yeah. But if you think about how our electronic computers work, because everybody listening will have some awareness of how computers work on some sort of basic level, really what you and I are doing is somebody's coming along and saying, why isn't my computer working properly? My inner computer. Why is my life difficult? Why am I struggling? What's going on here? How come I'm always ill? How come my mental state is not what I would desire? Why am I out of alignment with
That's basically
me?
what they're saying, right?
Why am I out of alignment with me? Not even out there.
Right. Right.
You are created to be, I mean, you did such a wonderful job describing this. You have a divine blueprint, and that divine blueprint is for your benefit. It's for your health, wealth, relationship, self-expression. It's so that you can express your passions in a beneficial way. It's so that you can take your place in the circle, and nobody else can do what you're here to do. And if people are not doing their bit, people like you and me are having to pick up the pieces, yeah, because the work needs to be done. The work of repairing the world, as we would say in the Jewish tradition, yeah. So where was I going with that? Oh, so what you and I do, whether we use the computer analogy or not, which I do and you don't, right? But the work is still the same.
Yeah, I believe
it's the person. Yeah, it's the person coming along and saying, "What's out of alignment here?" They may not use those words, but you and I can hear them, right?
Yes.
And I'm the equivalent of the 19-year-old who says, "Oh, your computer's not working? Okay. I'm going to do some reprogramming here," and poof. Oh my God, that's what it feels like to be 100% me. And typically, people have not been 100% who they are since about the age of 5. Typically, right? And you know this because you and I have worked together, and you know what it feels like. It feels like,
but
right,
to
that's
keep
who
talking,
I am.
because you're not talking to me, you're talking to the people out there listening. So
Yes.
you don't have to, so tell them, like we are not even going on our full brain, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. You've got it exactly right. So we know that if the electronic computer is not working, right? Let's say it's because it's a computer virus, okay? And you picked up this computer virus, and you don't know where you picked it up from. You've been hanging around somewhere a little bit too long, right? And then you have your inner computers, just like your electronic computers, cannot tell the difference between beneficial programming and not beneficial programming. It cannot tell what is for you, or what is not for you, right? That's why we use muscle testing a lot, because it's a shortcut.
Programmed to do.
Right. So it just says, "Oh, coding, I can do this," and boom, your computer crashes. Or maybe if you have a strong immune system, you can get around it, but you're still using up system resources, right? So that's when we start feeling exhausted. That's when we get these mystery elements. And that's just on the physical. It's so much easier to go in at the soul level and fix it there because, okay, going back to our little pyramid, right? Okay, so pointy bit is the soul, it's the spirit. Spirit's doing just fine. Just leave it alone. It's good. The spirit is attempting to tell you what is right for you uniquely to think, feel, believe, and desire, what your correct alignment is. And then when you're in that alignment, your soul is telling your physical level, okay, this is what you need to do. Yeah, in order to. Yeah, so the direction is from spirit into the soul, into the physical. But because most of us are so choked up in the soul level, the direction never gets through. Right. Yeah. And then we have to really work at it. It's like, oh, I have no discipline around food, for instance. Yeah. So, and I get that from my dad. Okay, fine. I forgive him. Right. But my point is, it becomes a little bit of a struggle. I get a picture or a belief in my soul level that I ought to eat in such and such a way. And that is to correct or bring back into alignment my physical experience. Whereas if I do it the other way around, if I correct what's going on in the soul level, then that will automatically say, oh, this is good for you right now. This was good for you last week, but it's not correct for you this minute. Maybe again in the future. But it's coming to listen at the correct level from already being in alignment. Doing it from the soul level, so much easier. So much easier to reverse a negative condition that's been there long enough to reach the physical. Go back to the soul level and say, okay, what do we need to clear out, let go of, amplify? Sometimes we just need to bring something in, but effectively we're saying, what radio station are you listening to here that's taking you out of alignment or keeping you out of alignment? Because once we get you back into alignment with being you, oh my God, life is so much easier. And then we start getting all those marvelous coincidences and serendipity and all that fabulous stuff, which is available to each of us.
Every single person, every single one of us. Yes.
But not if you're worrying.
And have shame and guilt.
Any negative condition, but especially
Yes.
worry, because I want to pick up on what you were saying earlier, because you said it so well. When you worry, you are praying for something you don't want. And as you said so eloquently and clearly, what's more important than anything else is to focus on what you desire. Yeah, not focusing on the lack of, but focusing on how does it feel when? How does it feel when I'm sitting in my dining room and I'm thinking, gee, I'd really like to talk to Mary Beth today. And I kid you not, 5 seconds later, I got your email. Yeah. Alignment.
Alignment. And guys, all that is alignment. Dr. Keir's so right. So many people confuse that. Yeah, I mean, so many people will say like, oh my God, you're such a psychic. I'm like, no, promise you, not a psychic, but I'm in alignment most of the time.
Yes. And
that's how powerful alignment is. It allows you to know and see and feel and hear just a little higher off the ground. It's right. Beautiful.
So what we're doing with that pyramid analogy that I was just saying to you is we're always going for how can we transcend and include. We're not ignoring the physical. I mean, the body's always trying to tell you stuff, and sometimes it's trying to tell you, don't do that. Yeah. I mean, I'm still struggling with my foot because I tripped a month ago. Yeah. So the pain is trying to tell me something. It's trying to tell me, slow down. It's trying to tell me, go rest. It's, things that I am not normally terribly good at. So it says, oh, you don't want to pay attention to the smaller, quieter messages? Okay, let's make it nice and big and unmistakable. All right, got it. Okay. But the thing is, I can transcend and include that by going to the soul level and saying, all right, now what is it that I do need to hear? How is this going to shift around my thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires? But even better is if I can take it up into spirit. Yeah? And that's what people, I think, still don't get about muscle testing. I know this is going to sound like it's a bit of a jump, because muscle testing is your body saying to you, this has more life force energy for you. It brings you into alignment with your divine blueprint more than that. Right? So people call me all the time and they'll say, should I do this? Should I do that? And I'm saying, well, first, let's take the shoulds out of it. And secondly, let's make a list. Oh, I'm a great believer in lists. That organizational side. Yeah. I say, okay, I hear there are 5 things on your list. So you tell me what the first 4 possibilities are. And number 5 will be other. It'll be something you haven't even thought about. And I will muscle test for you. I will test for you because, and I mean this in a really caring way, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me whether you buy a Porsche or a Mercedes or something else entirely. It just doesn't, I get to be detached about it. I'm not quite as detached about my own choices, but then I go to a colleague and get them to do it.
But Dr. Keir, on that note, 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, so we said a Mercedes or a Porsche. What about when it's more serious than that? I mean, let's just touch that. What about when it's like, do I go into the hospital? Do I stay home? Do I continue to take these medicines that they're flooding me with? Or do I decide to wean off and see how I feel? There's some bigger things out there. What would you say to that?
But any question, I'm really glad you brought this up. Any question apart from a why question. So we're going to take why questions. We're going to put them over here. for a minute, and I'll tell you in a moment, I will tell you why. Uh, Apart from a why question, any question, no matter how complicated it seems, can be broken down into yes, no chunks. So our first question is always, what's the best question here? What do we need to know? Yeah, what way before what do we need to do? So what do we need to know here? And sometimes we'll just say, okay, how many questions do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 questions, and the first one is, right? The first one is in the physical, it's in the soul, it's in the spirit. The first one is about health, wealth, relationships, self-expression, things of eternity, other. The first one is, do you see what I'm saying? It can always,
I do.
always be broken down into those little chunks. So it's like, because you're a very right-brained person, right brain, my experience is, and my training says that right brain people really love that big picture. And that's great. I mean, that's really impressive and inspiring. Left brain people, we like the details. And
Yeah.
the blessing is when we can get both sides working together. That's why I work with a lot of right brain people who don't know the questions to ask, but I do. Because of that left brain detail to big
Right.
picture thing.
Right. And how
So
you get your answers is the muscle testing, which is how I get
the
all
muscle
my
testing.
answers.
Exactly. Exactly. So all that the muscle testing is asking is, does A, B, C, D, or E, which one has the best alignment? Which one is bringing the most life force energy through for this person? That's why it's very easy for me to ask for other people, or easier, yeah? Because it doesn't matter to me as much as if I'm asking a question for myself, yeah?
Right. You
So
can
I'm
be
asking,
clear.
yeah, so for this person, of these options, is there a clear first option? And sometimes there isn't. That's why we always have other at the bottom. So if it is other, we go back to our first question. What do we need to know here? Yeah. But here, the thing I love about the muscle testing is that it is automatically bringing you up into spirit, because we're not asking, what do you think about this? What do you feel about this? What do you believe about this? Or even what do you want? We're saying, in spirit, what is the best choice for this person at this time in the now? So the thing I do before that, especially if it's a big question, is I'll get the person back to being 100% who they are designed to be.
Let's do it.
Because
Right.
otherwise, and I had this example just the other day, there's a guy I work with in Brazil, and he said, I need some answers about XYZ, right? And I said, well, at the moment, you're only 55% you. You got 5 other people in there. I am willing to help you. I am not willing to help them. You clean yourself up.
Tell the audience what that means. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but tell the audience what you mean by you have 5 other people with you.
Okay, so
You.
all right, so let's go back to the radio analogy for a second,
Okay.
or the computer analogy. Same difference as far as I'm concerned,
Okay.
right? Let's say it's the computers, because it's probably easier for people to get it. If you're trying to run 5 other files or programs that your computer system is not compatible with, you are not going to get a clear answer. And what you're going to get is a lot of static, basically. Now, if you have other persons, places, or things on you, as my word would be, on you, in you, doesn't matter, same thing, then they have their own desires. Yeah, they have their own programs. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to piggyback on your capacity. So basically, it's not that they're necessarily bad people, although some certainly are.
No.
Normally, they're good people. It's that they don't have the tools to sort out their own issues, and they're kind of hoping you're going to do the work for them. Now, especially people like you and me who operate as counselors, as mentors, as guides, as whatever the word is you want. I don't think there really is one. We naturally attract people who look at us and say, well, she seems to know a lot more than I do, so maybe she can figure this out for me. Now, if somebody comes to me honestly and says, please would you use your skills in a detached way to help me figure out this problem? That's one thing. But what most people do is they basically kind of hang around hoping for freebies and not giving an energy exchange and just really kind of sucking at you. You know, they like to hook in. And how is the easiest way for somebody to hook into somebody like you and me or all other right thinking people? We are here. We are designed to give, help, serve, teach, and allow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are always going to be people who basically come at you or me or some people like us and say, oh, please, I need this help. I can't afford to pay you, but I really, really, really need this help. And I find myself rearranging my schedule because I haven't checked in. Is it obedient for me to work with this person?
Right.
They hook into you, and I'm not trying to say in a judgment way. We all do
No,
this.
no.
They hook into you because they want you to process their crap. And it may not be your job. You may not be the one, you may not have the programs that they need. Maybe they're supposed to be looking at it themselves. Maybe it's better for them to work with somebody else. And maybe it's better for me not to work with them. Yeah. So I have learned, I check every time. Is it obedient? Is it in alignment with my divine blueprint and their divine blueprint and the overall plan here for us to work together at this time? Because it is also about being in the now. Because lots of people, me too, yeah, is we go into these age regressions where something happened when we were 12 or 25 or whenever the heck, and we're sort of unconsciously going back and trying to sort it out then when we didn't have the tools. But the problem is we don't have the tools now either. Right?
Right.
So, and because all this is going on in the unconscious, it's like looking at your computer and trying to see your hard drive and what's on your hard drive, which you cannot do with your physical eyes. You know?
Yeah.
So you need to do a search program, and that's kind of what you and I are doing for people.
Yeah.
Is we're saying, okay, because it's not important to me, I'm not going to get hooked in here. I can look at your hard drive and say, look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people's energies creating files that are messing with you. And I am not going to work on them, but I will help you identify them and throw them out.
Right. And you do that. By the way, everyone, I mean, I've known Dr. Kira a long time, so I've had many, sessions, and that's what she does. I love
That's what I do.
This one is thrown out the window, splat.
Wow!
I do more of a cord cutting, but yours is funny. I love
That's
yours.
okay. As long as there's an action and a sound, right? Because the left brain only responds to sounds and words, and the right side of the brain only responds to visions and actions. As long as you're doing both of them together, you're golden.
Right.
Yep.
You're golden. All right. What else did I want to ask you? Think about you could talk.
Oh, so when I'm working with people, that's where I always start. Let's get you back to being 100% you. Now, once we do that, which can take a little while, but once we do that, I'll then start asking, okay, now, is there something that you desire? Do you have a goal, which is only something you desire that you don't have yet, right? I mean, I'm not going to have a desire for a Miata. I already own a Miata, right? Well, I used to anyway. And I got that in a really miraculous way, which I'll tell you about sometime. And then we will start working with integrations, which is a little app, so to speak, a program to get you and your desires in alignment with each other. And then there's some other techniques that I developed, activation, super activation, super resets. I've got a whole new set coming in called super reboots. And these last 3 ones that the dragons brought in for me, so it's kind of cool stuff. And I can talk about dragons for a long time, but I won't in this moment. So the point is to get you back to you and to get you back to being in the now as something that you can practice on a daily basis. That's already huge. But there are other levels that we can get to that transcend and include all that other stuff. The more time you can spend as you in the now, the easier it is to tell when somebody else is contaminating your field, because you have a much better boundary around, okay, I go to here, and beyond here, that's somebody else. Yeah, the more you know who you are, the faster, the more easily you can really notice when somebody else is affecting you. And we all have little indicators. For example, I don't think I can do it in a place where you can see it, but if you can imagine this is a table, right? And if I start doing this, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. This is something we do
Okay.
practicing
Yeah.
cello to get a vibrato on the cello string,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Okay, I was a cellist, but my dad was a cellist. I picked this up from him. If I'm doing that, my dad's in my field somewhere.
Gotcha.
That's not me consciously doing it. That's some, and we all have stuff like that. You find yourself
Yes.
speaking the way your mother spoke, or your sister,
Yes.
or your grandparents, or maybe it's a cultural thing. I had a colleague for years who was actually born in Poland, came to the U.S. when she was 4, lives in a very Polish neighborhood in New York, Bronx or Brooklyn, I can never quite remember which, and she defaults into a kind of Polish perspective on the word, and nothing wrong with that.
No.
But
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't always check for her, and it certainly doesn't check for me, and it did not check for her American husband. They are not married anymore.
Right. That did not check.
Yeah, but she would, we would be talking, and she'd sort of say, well, in Poland we do this, and I said, listen, I hate to tell you this for the 15th time, but the fact that that's what you grew up with in Poland and with a Polish family and a Polish neighborhood in the US does not mean that your husband has to do that. It's just, if it doesn't check for him, and it doesn't.
Right.
So it's that
Which brings
constant
us,
checking. Yeah,
I'm
please.
sorry, which brings us to what we were talking about in the beginning almost, and it's about feeling good.
Yes.
When, yeah, you couldn't come on that a little bit.
Oh,
The
yeah,
feeling
that
good.
was
It's
that was an
about feeling
especially
good.
inspired part. Yeah. We have these interesting belief systems. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in an English on one side of my family, German on the other side of my family. Okay. Now, so I live in France half the time. Oh, it's just so different. The German side really, truly, honestly believes that life is a struggle. You have to work hard, you have to earn money, you have to do lots of oughts. It's very staunch, emotionally, especially. Right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
English side, less so. The French side, not at all.
Right.
I mean, it's obviously true that the French people and the French country nationality is the best in the world, and if you're not French, well, but on the other hand, I was actually talking about this with somebody just last night. There's a lot to be said for Catholic countries. Catholic countries are much more laissez-faire, much more into the pleasures of the flesh and the enjoyment of being in a physical body and having good wine and good food. And my first job was as a chef in a French restaurant, so it's like I'm so there. And
Yeah.
and Protestant countries not.
And good
Protestant work
love.
ethic,
Good
Puritanism.
love.
Yeah, you know.
The French people love good love.
Oh yeah. Oh, I could talk about
Yeah.
that for a whole hour right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but my point is that we always grow up within a cultural and social matrix. Of course we do. How could it be
Right.
otherwise? So my friend who's colleague, who even though she's lived almost all her life in the US, still strongly identifies as Polish, and that's her default setting. I have genetic line contaminations around Puritanism, around feeling suspicious that somebody somewhere is having fun, as my English friend would put it. And of course, the English also know that they're the best country in the world, and if you're not
Yeah.
English, then yeah, which
Right.
is so the only
But
overlap between the French and the
I
English.
love I love that they feel that way. I love that. And America, it used to be the same. If you're not
Yeah.
American, I don't know that we're there anymore, but
No, I don't
I
think
know,
so.
I know. And at a time, but I love that. I love that. Be proud. Feel good about what you're doing. That means you're in harmony. That
It's
means you're where
yeah,
you're supposed to be. To me, that's what that means.
and even more so. I mean, I completely agree with you, and it's very well expressed. Even more so, is to feel happy about who you are. That comes
In the
before
moment.
what you do. Now, what you do is going to stem from who you are. So I kept hearing this as you were speaking earlier. It says, remind everyone to fall in love with their higher self.
Oh, the beauty of that, Kier.
Just that. If you take nothing else away from this talk, fall in love with your higher self. Because whether you believe in a deist type God or not, or just the overwhelming complexity and intelligence of the universe, which is kind of like more like me because I was brought up in a very scientific mathematical household, they say there is a purpose for you to
So
be
wait,
here.
can I
Nobody
ask
else
you?
can do it. Just give me a sec. Give me a sec.
Yeah, sure,
That
sure.
that higher self, that is your eternal soul. That is your
Mm,
eternal spirit, not the temporary little personality stuff that loses their temper and gets frustrated and all that stuff. But that transcends and includes
the
fall in
better you.
love with that. Then you
So
don't
to
have to
me,
worry
that's my
about it.
I am
Yeah.
presence. That's the I
Yes.
am presence. Now, I
Yes.
wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
It slipped out of my.
Oh,
Right was
sorry.
it? You were talking about. Oh, what were you raised? What was your belief system when you were
Oh,
raised?
that is fantastic question.
Me,
And
me.
you're gonna love the answer.
Who
You
gives you
really are.
breath? Who did your parents say gives you breath?
Okay. My great grandfather was a Presbyterian minister. So,
Mm,
okay. And his wife converted from Judaism to marry him. So my
wow.
mother's mother was
Okay.
Jewish. And as you know, in Judaism, we count it through the mother, which is
Yep.
really interesting for a patriarchal system.
Yeah.
And then when we were kids, we went to the Baptist church for Sunday
Wow.
school. And then
Okay.
when I got old enough to sing the choir, I went with my grandmother to the Presbyterian church.
Okay.
And then when I moved to England when I was 15. So then there's Church of England. And then because I have a very strong voice, I am welcome in church choirs anywhere.
Of
So,
course.
so I was singing for a while in the Catholic church choir because I was.
Yeah.
That's when I got
Because your
back to the
voice
U.S.
is
But I also, when I was in Britain, I have cousins who were Quakers. So I was attending Quaker meeting
cool.
and also going to synagogue. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, Judeo Christianity, full range.
Right.
And
You're
it's
covered
great.
on every end of the spectrum.
And
I was just curious.
exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just curious because, they are scientific, but anyway, I don't want to go to get too deep into that. That's interesting. I was
Yeah.
curious because what your higher self is, or when you talk about your spirit level, is what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes.
I And I call that your I am presence, which we
Yeah.
all have inside of us.
Yeah.
When you are tapped into that source, which again, I guess you could call God. I mean, that's what I am is God. So for
Yeah.
me, whatever anybody else,
That's okay.
whatever gets
Yeah.
you there. Yeah. But and you know this, when you're tapped into that aspect of you, anybody's beliefs around you, you really don't get that you're wrong, I'm right, when you're truly in it, you
Yes.
just know what you know.
That's
There's a
exactly it.
Yeah, and there's
Exactly
a
it.
feeling. Yeah, it's such an amazing place to be. It is. And call it Lululand or Fairyland. Let me tell you something. When you hit it, and you may tap it just for a minute or two throughout your life, when you decide that you want to oscillate at that point, everything's easy.
Oh
Everything's
yeah.
easy. Even the hard
Exactly.
stuff.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you don't have addictions. It doesn't mean you don't have abusive relationships. But when you decide that part of your existence is done, that experience is over. And when you can look at it and join in here, when you
Yes.
can look at it, it's an experience. It's an
Oh,
experience,
absolutely.
and I'm done.
Yes.
Much easier than saying, "Oh, I'm going to be abused all my life. Oh, I'm an addict my whole life." I understand there's struggles out there. I'm not downplaying them, but my point is, when you could start to look at them and say, "Wonder why I needed that experience. I'm done with that," and start
Right.
tapping into that I am presence.
Yep.
It becomes easy to walk away because the universe starts putting all these other things in your life, and you're like,
Much more
"Wow,
fun.
yeah."
Yeah.
And it is fun and it does feel good. It's not that it's not serious, but I'm telling you, and you say what you think about this.
Yep.
It, you know, it just comes from a different, like you go around now and you do this amazing work. You call yourself the fairy godmother, Dragonomics, which is
That's right.
phenomenal. Way to touch base on that right before we go. Excuse me, and the free activations that you're giving, and we're at the end here.
Absolutely.
So,
So
however,
I have one
you
word
know,
to add, if I may,
yeah, okay, add it.
and that word is dragons. Because I'll tell you, what released me from a lot of those oughts and shoulds and what have you was tapping into the perspective of the dragons, because they look at it from a non-human viewpoint. Yeah. So if they're going to look at things like religion, they're saying, "Oh, you humans,
Yeah,
you're doing that thing again.
absolutely.
You humans do."
Silly
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. And there's not a
Now,
judgment thing. It's just like, okay,
are they
that's
guides?
whatever.
You
Say
would
again?
call them your guides. Your
Oh no, they're
guides.
different. They're different than my guides.
Okay,
They're dragons. The dragons
I
are
know they're
different
different.
beings. Yeah.
Right, I know they're different, but on a level, are they also guiding you? Maybe I should have said it that way.
Yes, but it's that whole
That's
transcend
what I
and
meant.
include thing. Yeah.
Okay,
It's like,
all
because
right, Dr. Q. Give
they're
them your,
going at 30,000 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So give
Oh,
them
it
your
is different.
information because we have
Oh
to
yeah.
bounce off.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell
Oh,
them
thank you
about
so much for having
Dragonomics.
me.
Tell them.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Okay.
it. I love it. We'll do this again. Yeah.
Free ebook, Dragonomics. Send me an email at drkyre@me.com. That's DRKYRE at me.com, drkyre@me.com. Ask for the book. I'll send it along to you. Any way I can help you out, fabulous.
And it's amazing, you guys. And you all know me, Mary Beth Stevenson. Let's talk miracles at gmail.com. And again, mwah, what a great show with you, Dr. Kira. We'll see you
Always
guys
a pleasure.
next week, okay? All right, bye-bye, everyone.
This has been Let's Talk Miracles with your host, Mary Beth Stevenson. Mary Beth reminds us to remember, it's never too late to hit the reset button, no matter how challenging life may seem. With Mary Beth, you'll explore the extraordinary power of I Am and how to tap into the beloved mighty forces that resides within us all. Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, here on the Bold Brave TV network.